These habits that I've given up have done a lot more for me than just help me sell a lot of houses. It's helped create the best version of myself. Somebody that I'm really, really, really happy to be right now. I'm really happy where I'm at right now. And that is in terms of where I'm at with my physical fitness, where I'm at with my mindset, my relationships, my income. And I think that once I go through all 10 of these, you might find some breakthrough opportunities for yourself. And so let's jump into this, starting with number one, which is shiny object syndrome. So, like most, I struggled with this for a very, very long time. And so, truth be told, it's like I would I would start a business or I try something, and if I didn't get really, really quick results, I would try to blame the thing that I was doing and say, okay, and I'd go on this search for like what other people were doing. And then I'd find somebody successful in something else, and then I'd sell myself on the new thing. And I'd do such a good job, not only selling myself, but selling everybody that I was surrounded with, my wife and my kids and my family. And it's like, okay, here's what I'm going to do now. And I was so good at convincing myself that the new thing was going to be the thing for once and for all. It wasn't all that other stuff. It was wrong. It was flawed because of all these reasons. And the new thing had all the upsides. And I didn't have to worry about all the crap that I was doing before. And then I would go and do that thing. And then, of course, what would happen? A few months after I started the new thing, after it became actually difficult, it was back to searching, back to the drawing board. It was finding something new again. And then I'd go through the whole process all over again. I couldn't stick to anything. And I would then find the new thing. Well, I didn't know this about that thing, so that's why I'm going to the new thing. And it was like, man, this guy can't stick to anything. And so once I gave that up, once I actually eliminated most of what I was doing, it wasn't until I sold my real estate brokerage firm. It wasn't until I sold my mortgage company. It wasn't until I sold my title company. It wasn't until I focused all my efforts into one thing and one thing only did everything change for me. And I think you'll find that the same thing is true for you. That this whole idea of chasing these new opportunities and diversifying your income and having multiple streams of income. I mean, there's truth to that for certain people who are successful doing one thing for a very long time before they start diversifying. And shiny object syndrome is a little bit different than that. Shiny object syndrome is, at least it was for me, something where it was a trend that continued to happen over and over and over. It plagued me for years of my career where I just simply couldn't stick to anything. And it was never my fault. It was always the mechanism's fault. It was always the thing. And it was so easy for me to bounce and chase something shiny because it was like, well, it's not me, it's the thing I'm doing. And so let me chase the other thing. And it wasn't until I found out that, and I truly mean this, that the mechanism or the thing that you're chasing that you think will make you successful is not the thing that's going to make you successful. We all know this. It's the character traits. It's you. It's me. You, it doesn't matter what you're doing because here's what we know. There are people that are succeeding in every single vehicle that you have tried, that you want to try. So it's not the vehicle that makes the successful person, it's the person. And so they've always said it for years and years and years. You've heard us a million times, but it's so true. The grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is green where you water it. And that is so true. And real results for me didn't really happen until I got past like what I call phase two. So like phase one, you're trying the new thing. It's really exciting, the new job, the new relationship, etc. And then after the newness wears off, it's like, oh, this is not what I thought I was going to be. This was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. As you start looking at the girl in the red dress again, it wasn't until I pushed through that phase two that you actually start seeing results. Because here's the thing that you don't know that I can save you so much time, energy, and money is let's just say you're 3, 4, 5 months into something and you're having that urge to say, man, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. and you start looking at the next thing, well, believe me when I tell you, when you start the new thing, yes, you're going to be excited about it, but you're still 3, 4, 5 months out from getting results on the new thing. Where the thing you're doing now, you're probably extremely close to getting results. And if you start something new, you're just prolonging your results that much further. So, in other words, the thing you're doing right now, one day you were excited about it. There was one day where you sold yourself and others that the thing you're doing right now was the thing. And if you just stick to the thing you're doing, you're probably way closer to producing an actual positive result that you want than you would be if you were to start a new thing. So, number two, or habit number two that I had to give up. Realtors, really quick, if you're not yet earning $100,000 a year consistently, I'm talking about having $10,000 months, month after month after month. I just launched the Listing Agent Blueprint. It's a free course where I show you exactly how to generate a six-figure income step by step. And the best part, it's all listing focused. So no more chasing buyers around, no more working nights and weekends. I'm going to show you how to do this every step of the way. And it doesn't matter if you have any experience, and you certainly don't need any money to buy any leads with this model. To get started, all you have to do is simply click the link in the description. All right, let's get back to the video. Is saying yes to everything and to everyone. I was your classic yes man. It was because I was so insecure that I wanted to please everybody, that any request, any got a second, any request whatsoever. Hey, Brandon, come into my thing. Yep, I'm there. Brandon, you got a second? Yep. Brandon, can you help me with this thing? Yep. It was yes, yes, yes. Brandon, do you want to go grab a cup of coffee? Yep. I couldn't say no to anyone. And as a result of saying yes to everything and everyone, guess what happened? It ended up doing the opposite of what I wanted. I started to let everyone down. Because I made so many commitments, I was unable to fulfill on most of them. And so as a result of that, my intentions were so good. It was like, well, my intentions is to please these people. It's to like help these people. But because I made so many commitments to so many things and people, that naturally at some point you just don't have the bandwidth to fulfill on all of those things. And so I started dropping the ball left and right, left and right, left and right on all these different relationships and business initiatives and projects and all kinds of stuff. And the very people that I thought I was trying to please, I was actually pissing them off because I would overcommit myself and then not be able to fulfill on that commitment. And so here's what I know, and this is so good. This is straight from James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits. It's one of my favorite books of all time. He talks about the fact that every time we say yes to something, it's like a debt that we have to pay in the future. And every time we say no to something, it's like making a deposit in your future. And so what he means by that, and it's so true, that we only have so much time, right? And so every time we commit or we say yes to something in the future, that's taking away, that's guaranteeing where that time is going to be spent in the future, and it takes away from that time bank. And every time we politely say no to someone or something, it's like you make a deposit in what you get to do with that time in the future. And so the more and more you do this, like you won't recognize this right away, but I've gotten so good at saying no that like people are like, you're so busy, you're so busy. It's like, well, not really, not anymore, because I tend to say no to almost everything unless it's like the vital few things that I have to do, such that all I've created is time to do the only thing that matters. And so everyone bitches about not having enough time, and I promise it's not because it's not because of what you're not doing. It's because of all the crap you are doing that's taking away from the vital few things that you don't have time to do those vital few things because of you're doing too much. So if you want to move your business forward, I've always said it's addition by subtraction. You probably need to go through, and I've gone through this a lot with the agents that I coach. It's like, what can we remove? What are the things that you're doing right now that if you weren't doing them, could we produce the same result? And you start coming up with this list. It's like, yeah, I could sell, I could make the same amount of money and not do this, not do this, not do this. And that would free me up to get some of my life back and certainly allow me to spend more time doing the things that matter. All right, number 3, the third habit I gave up is hanging out with enemy vampires. So, and this is not a video about like psychology, but I believe that this probably came from more insecurity in my younger self, in that wanting to please and help everybody around me. A lot of people would leech onto my success. A lot of people that I care about too, but like they would leech off my success and just literally suck the life out of me. And so because I bring great energy, because I like to think that there's the success that I've created, there's so many people that are going to want to leech onto that if you're not careful. And if you're just around the wrong people, they want to zap every ounce of your energy away from you, and they have no remorse doing it. And so I had to be very, very, very comfortable and careful around the people who I spend time with, which is the truth. And I had to get rid of a lot of those people. And some of them were like in bigger business relationships where it's like, man, I can't be the one who makes this whole thing happen and then you get all the benefit from it. Or if it's not a business relationship, maybe it's a friendship where it's like, dude, I'm the only one putting forth effort in this friendship, and then you just benefit from all the things that I do, whether that be trips or events or outings or here's the best one, like having people over our house. I'm always the one who's cooking for people. When I had my lake house before my wife and I sold it, it's like, well, I have the boat for your kids, and I have the jet skis for your kids, and I have all the food for you and your kids. And then you would come over and hang out, eat all my food, drink all my drinks, use all my stuff, and then just leave me to pick it all up and to pay for everything too. Like that just zapped the energy out of me till it's like, dude, I don't need any of that. I just don't need any of that. And so I removed a lot of what I call, these are not bad people, right? This is just, a lot of it was my fault, to be fair. A lot of it was me just wanting to please other people and me wanting to get people to like me, that I would just offer and do so much for other people, which is probably a lot of the cause of a lot of the anxiety issues that I have. So I got rid of the energy vampires. All right, next on my list I wrote number 4, taking unqualified advice. This is so good. As you start to build your business, you are going to have opinions coming out of every corner of your life. And the thing about unqualified advice is that everyone has some, but it's very, very, very rare that it's qualified. What do I mean by unqualified advice? What I mean by that is that, and I'll just call it what it is. I mean, a lot of brokers in the business of real estate have a whole bunch of advice on what realtors and agents should and shouldn't be doing, where if you ask yourself to say, okay, if I took in other words, the person giving me the advice, would I trade my life for theirs? Would I want to be in their shoes? Would I want to have a spitting image of their life and their income and their lifestyle, etc.? If the answer is no, it is unqualified. And it's too often that I see realtors taking the advice, this unqualified advice, as gospel. And it's like, why are you taking this advice from people that you don't want to be like? Why are you taking the advice from people that don't have the results that you want for yourself? Why? Why are you taking financial advice from people that are broke? Why are you taking health and fitness advice from people who are unfit and unhealthy? It just doesn't make any sense. But it happens all the time. And so, once I was like, listen, the only people I'm going to listen to it's going to be from the people who have or who have what it is that I want or have done the things I want to do. Period. End of story. Anything else, it's a no, thank you. Hey, you want my advice on that? No, thank you. It's just a no, thank you. Or if you get this is even better than unqualified advice, the unsolicited advice. Well, if I was in your shoes, this is what I would be doing. It's like, hey, you know what? Before you get started, I appreciate it. I love you. I know it's coming from a good place, but I'm good. I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. I appreciate it, but I'm all set. Um, because people you're surrounded with, that like I was surrounded with, people love giving unsolicited advice all the time. And you just gotta be careful of who you listen to. All right, let's move on. Number 5, playing the victim. Oh, this is a big one. So when I was young, it was always just the blame game. It was this or it was that. It was all these different things. And it wasn't until like I took 100% ownership for my success and my failure that I found myself out of failure and into success. I had to own it 100%. Many of you that I work with, you know how I grew up in my childhood and all that. I'm not going to get into all of that in this video, but it's like the tough thing is there's a lot of people that want to blame their bad upbringings and that being the reason why they can't do X, Y, or Z, or they're just a victim of their circumstance. I know shit happens. I understand. I understand there's all kinds of stories of all kinds of people have been through all kinds of terrible things. And there's a lot of people that have been through a lot worse than I have. I understand it all, but you still have a choice to make. You still have a choice in the matter of, will I let the circumstance that I have been through that I didn't have any control of control my life, or do I allow it to fuel my success? And so for me, right, this video is about the habits that I have given up on that have helped me succeed. Once I released all of that and say, I own it, it's up to me. No one's going to save me. I'm not looking for anybody to save me. No one's responsible for saving me. The only person that can help you win is me, yourself. When that happens, you're forced into taking massive amounts of action, because it's like, it's all on me. My failure, my success, it is all on me. It's my fault. It's my fault if I lose, and it's my fault if I win. And when you have that mindset, you will actually take the action that you need to actually win. Number 6, giving into impulse behavior. All right, this is another good one. So one of the things that was so important is understanding discipline at a level that I didn't for years and years and years and years and years. Being disciplined means that you have a large, you're able to focus your energy and fight impulses that people with low discipline just simply can't. I'll give you just the easiest example that helped me for a long time, or hurt me for a long time rather, is like the impulse on this thing, this phone, right? We call it the weapons of mass distraction. And every single time there'd be a bing, a ding, a notification, it was like, ooh, someone needs something from me. It was almost like I'd be prospecting, I'd be making my phone calls, bing, I'm like, oh, and I almost let myself off the hook to say, well, somebody needs something from me. So that is reason enough to stop doing the thing that I planned on doing. And it was, my whole life was built like that. Any little tiny impulse, it was like it was like no self-control whatsoever. Whether that be at the store, spending money with food, it wouldn't matter what it was. It was like these impulses were like taking over, like they owned me. And so it wasn't until like I was able to really, 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 really focus on the here and the now and say, okay, this is the thing I'm doing. I don't care what else is happening right now. I can do all of everything later. Like, it's very rare where you have like a real emergency. Very rare, right? And so that level of like focus and discipline, I believe, is probably the greatest competitive advantage that peak performers have that low performers don't have. Is they just have very little focus and discipline, where peak performers, people at the top of their game, have a ton of discipline and focus. And so that was my exact same experience. Number 7, forcing leads and appointments. All right, so this one's a little bit more tactical. So when I first started in the business, I would force any decent conversation. When I said decent, I'm talking about I would talk to a prospect who just wasn't mad at me, who wasn't yelling at me. And if it was a decent conversation, no matter if it wouldn't matter. Like they were just going to go into my database no matter what. And I was just going to follow up with everybody, just stick them all in there. And I would just force all this crap in my database. And then I would just be on this hamster wheel. Like I would call people back, they would never answer, or I'd call people back and it's like, oh yeah, we sold that house months ago. Or I'd call people back and say, well, yeah, I did business with John, my realtor. And it's like, what am I doing wrong here? Well, I didn't understand how to disqualify. In other words, I didn't understand how to get to the truth in a prospecting conversation to know the difference between somebody who was wanting to do business with me versus not wanting to do business with me. And the same thing happened with appointments. It was like, okay, do you have a pulse? Okay, let me come meet with you. And then I would just go and drive around like a crazy person and meet with every Tom, Dick, and Harry and get very, very, very little business in return. And it wasn't until I learned really how to sell over the phone, how to sell in person, how to qualify, how to disqualify, how to gently push people away. It wasn't until I learned all those skills that I got really, really good leads, like the best quality seller leads to follow up with. And then B, it made my appointments so easy because I was able to go on appointments with the highest quality prospects ever. And that's what really blew up my business. All right, number 8, ego, another big one. So ego comes from insecurity. Ego comes from, okay, I know it all and you're not going to teach me anything. So we talked about like taking bad advice from unqualified people. Ego is the opposite of that. Ego is unwilling to take advice from people who are walking the walk, who have the results that you want, who have what you want. And then you saying to that person, oh, yeah, I know, like, dude, I'm not going to listen. I know it all. And then you not being open and coachable. So ego is like not taking advice. At least for me, this is the way I think about it, is not taking advice from the right people, because it's like you just want to pretend like you know it all. And that mindset also crushed me in the beginning. It's like I'm this young hotshot, and you're not going to tell me. I don't care how long you've been doing this. I don't care how long you've been selling real estate. You ain't going to tell me anything. And it was that mindset. That's ego. And so it wasn't until I got rid of that and I started to invest in myself. I started investing in coaching. I started buying courses. I'm like, listen, if these people make more money than me, obviously they know some shit that I don't know. It would be stupid. This is why Hermosi calls it the ignorance tax. I would be stupid not to not only take this person's advice, but not even pay them for it. If somebody is 10, 20 years in front of me and has the results and the lifestyle that I want in the next 20 years, I would be an idiot not to listen to what they have to say. And I'd also be an idiot not to invest in myself and pay them money so that they can help speed up the learning curve. All right, number 9, multiple streams of income. All right, so we talked about this a little bit, but my younger self, I would always try to hedge one tactic against another. I'd always say, okay, I'm going to have all these plates spinning, and I'm going to hedge to see which one of them is a winner and which one of them is a loser. And my own experience, you might have a different experience. My own experience is that the more plates I had spinning, the more of them were falling. In other words, that's probably a better way to say it. The more plates I had spinning, the lower it was that any of them didn't break. And so this whole idea comes across because you see these successful entrepreneurs talking about having this business and this business. What you forget is that entrepreneur who is saying what they are saying, who talks about multiple streams of income, did their one thing, their main thing for a very long time, made that one thing very successful, until they were able to leverage out of that. And then they started the next thing. The best story I tell is this. So, some of you know this, but I grew up at a really great company where I learned a lot, Quicken Loans, which is owned by Dan Gilbert. And this is the best example of this. I think that from my memory, it could be totally different now, but Dan owns like 150, 200, 300, 400 companies, something crazy, including the Cleveland Cavaliers and, 400 other companies. So people will look at that and say, well, that's the path towards success. Look at all the companies he has. Right. But what you don't know is that for 20 years, he had one company. So for 2 decades, he focused on one thing and grew that one thing to become world class, into the point where he was fully leveraged out of the one thing for 2 decades before he started diversifying into anything else. It's like Patrick Bet-David. He focused on his one thing before he has all these other things now. But people they want to compare people's chapter 20 to their chapter 1. It's like, you don't start that way. And so the same thing has happened for me. I just told you the story. Earlier in my career, when I had 5, 6, 7, 8 different companies going, none of them were successful. None of them were successful. You only have a finite amount of energy, discipline, and focus, like we talked about. And if you're spreading that across multiple different things, all of them will struggle. So it wasn't until, for me, I put all of my attention into one thing, and that's another great book by Gary Keller. I think that every realtor should read The One Thing. It's amazing. It's not until I went all in on one thing that my income went up, my stress levels went down, everything got better. Everything got better. And so for me, that was true. And so just be careful of the whole multiple streams of income. And then number 10 is that I had to give up, which is always being available. Again, another thing that I had to give up because of my insecurity. And so this whole thing is like as you can tell, it's like you versus you. And the same thing was for me. It was like me versus me. And a lot of these things that plague us, that cause us to not be as successful as we want, come from becoming your best version of yourself. And so this always being available, again, it was a part of me that says, well, I want to please people. I want everybody to like me. And I always have to be available to all the people all the time. And it's just not true. It's just not true at all. And so, like this thing that realtors have in their head of like, well, I need to be available 7 days a week for my clients, and that's what good client service is. That is not true. Let me ask you a question. There are probably service professionals in your life that you value very much, that you do not call on a Sunday morning, that you do not text Saturday at 10 p.m. the same way that you let your clients do to you. I promise you that. It's you doing that from a place of insecurity because you're so attached to commission. And the thing that I learned that allowed me to make more money and give better client service, listen, is to set boundaries with people. The opposite thing happened that I was scared of. The more I set boundaries with people, the more respect I got back. The more boundaries I set with people, the more they liked me. The more I set boundaries, the more respect, rapport, trust, all of it went up. And I was like, this is crazy. The more I tell people, listen, Sundays are off limits. That's when I'm with my family. That's when I'm doing like me time. The more I was like that, the more people are like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. That's inspiring, yada, yada, yada. And then the opposite was true. The more available I made it to people, the more it seemed like I pissed people off. Why? Because I made myself available to everybody all the time, that if I didn't get back to them, like I promised them in 10 minutes, they'd start freaking out and blowing up my phone. I'm going to go with somebody else. It's like, geez, what the hell? I'm so available to this person. They don't care. They being the world, right? So like if you set boundaries, at least this was true for me. You set boundaries. Boundaries equals respect. And it starts with having self-respect before getting respect from others. And I didn't respect myself for a long time. And so I let people trample all over me for way, way, way too long. And so these were the 10 things that really helped me to go from where I didn't want to be, unfit, unhealthy, broke, to a place where I'm really, really happy now with where I'm at with my physical, mental, financially, family, faith, all of it. I'm really happy now. And so hopefully this helps. I also made a video on the tactical side of exactly how I would start selling 100 homes if I had to start all over again. You can watch that right here.